Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo. Thank you very much, Maharaj. And thank you, dear devotees, for joining us for yet another evening of Krishna Katha from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj broadcasting live from ISKCON of New Jersey in Towaco. And as always, please feel free to interact, ask questions, make comments on the topic at hand. And we will try to accommodate you if time allows. And you can do that by typing in the chat box, or you can raise your hand using the raise hand feature and let us know if you want to participate. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to all, and respects to all, especially God brothers and God sisters, but everyone. This is Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Datati Shapadantikam. Vande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishakhan Vitascha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Manshal Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sabhuta Sukshmendriya Sannikarsham Manomayam Devamayam Vikaryam Sang Sadhya Gatya Sahatena Yati Vijnana Tattvam Guna Sannirodham. The devotee, thus surpassing the gross and the subtle forms of coverings, enters the plane of egoism. We've been discussing in the previous verses how the yogi devotee surpasses one element after another. He essentially merges the elements back into the elements, along with the activities of their associated senses. So everything is being left behind. So that was described in the previous verse, the aroma and smelling, vision, seeing, touch and contact, and so on. So that's all being left behind. Now he's reaching the level of ego. He's going through the coverings of the universe, which are associated with which are the reservoirs essentially of all of these elements. Each covering is 10 times thicker than the one before it. They start from gross and they go to the more subtle. So now we come to this most subtle covering of ego, which is called vikaryam, because it's the cause of all sorts of effects or changes. Vikar means change. So the ego makes so many things happen. So he surpasses all of these coverings and enters the plane of ego. And in that status, he merges the material modes of nature, ignorance and passion, in the point of neutralization, and thus reaches ego and goodness. After this, all ego is merged in the Mahatattva, and he comes to the point of pure self-realization. And we'll unpack this a little bit as we go along. Srila Prabhupada, with the help of Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, actually, first Prabhupada explains pure self-realization. Let's see. Because Prabhupada doesn't get into the details of this, I'll read from Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's purport, where he explains the technical side of this. He sort of clarifies it. The Sukadeva Goswami has described how the yogi surpasses the gross and subtle elements, how he attains the layer of false ego, and finally the layer of the Mahatattva. In the false ego, are merged, sanikarsha, the senses and the sense objects, gross and subtle. So he merges the sense objects and their associated elements into the false ego in ignorance. You might recall, or you might not, because actually I think it's described more elaborately in the third canto, in Kapil Dev's teachings, how everything exfoliates, expands from false ego. So you get the sense objects expanding from ego in ignorance, and now they're being absorbed back into ego in ignorance. Then the senses, which proceed from ego in passion, are merged back into ego in passion. The mind and the devatas of the senses, manomayam, devamayam in the verse, are merged back into the false ego in goodness. So now, then, along with the false ego which remains, because we've merged everything, right? We've merged the senses, the sense objects, the mind, the controlling deities. We've merged these all back into the respective portions of false ego, but false ego is still there. So then, along with the false ego, which is still there, he goes to the layer of the Mahatattva, Vijnana Tattva. Then he merges the false ego into the Mahatattva. Then he merges the Mahatattva into Pradhan, in which the modes of nature stop functioning. As Prabhupada says, they're suspended. Does he say that? Someplace he says that. So the material nature has two aspects, pradhan and prakriti. In prakriti is pradhan you can think of as being like a storehouse of the potentially active material modes of nature and material elements. And prakriti is the activated material nature. The pradhan doesn't do anything. It's the source of everything material, but it's not active. But when the Lord glances over material nature, then material nature becomes active, and the activated aspect of material nature is called prakriti. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasya. So that's where all this activity of the modes of nature takes place on the level of prakriti. But pradhan, now there's nothing happening. So the gunas stop functioning once he merges the Mahatattva, which is another way of saying the Prakriti, into the Pradhan. Okay, that's the technical explanation given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Any questions about that while we're here? Okay. Now, Srila Prabhupada begins his purport by taking this point of what Vijnana Tattva, or what pure self-realization consists of. The pure self-realization is the pure consciousness of admitting oneself to be the eternal servitor of the Lord. Thus, one is reinstated in his original position of transcendental loving service to the Lord. So that's right away Prabhupada's explanation. Pure consciousness doesn't mean just some sort of buzz, consciousness is now pure and you're in some sort of blissful, inactive, merged state of just pure consciousness, like pure water. You just consciousness as a substance. Consciousness is personal. And the pure form of consciousness is the stage of rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord without any hopes of emolument from the Lord. Emolument means compensation, payment. This can be attained when the senses are purified and the original pure state of the senses is revived. Perfect purification of the mind, Devamaya, is made possible when one is fixed in the conviction of being the eternal servitor of the Lord. Therefore, simple attainment of goodness is also a material mode. One has to surpass the stage of material goodness and reach the point of purified goodness, or Vasudeva Sattva. This helps one enter the kingdom of God. So this is very simple. Mahatattva, we have a question here. It gets pretty technical. Let's see. Pradhan and Prakriti and Mahatattva. Now, let's see. What is Mahatattva now that we've explained Pradhan and Prakriti? When the yogi merges Prakriti into Pradhan, Panchatattva does it mean he merges his contact with Prakriti into Pradhan? I mean, the yogi wouldn't have the scope of all Prakriti. Yes, I'm confused. Okay, the Mahatattva is a synonym for, now, is it, I always get, sort of have to have my book by my side when I'm reviewing these topics. I'm clear about what Prakriti is, I'm clear about what Pradhan is, and I usually get a little forgetful about which of those two Prakriti is identified with. It's a synonym of one or the other. And if I recall, well, the way Vishwanath describes it, he merges the Mahatattva into Pradhan, which would indicate that Prakriti is identified with the Mahatattva. So I'll go with that for now. Then Venkatesh. When the yogi merges Prakriti into Pradhan, it doesn't mean that the yogi is so powerful that he's merging the totality of Prakriti into the totality of Pradhan. He doesn't have that. He's not such a big shot that he can do that. And if he did that, then everyone would have the same experience that he does. Everybody would be merged into, would be emancipated, really, freed from all of these things. So he's merging his share, as it were, as we find in the Ishopanishad. Vayuranilamamritam yatedam bhajmantam shariram. He says, let the life air merge with the totality of air. So you can think of it this way, that our entire body, gross and subtle, is on loan from Pradhan, from material nature. It's all expanded from material nature. So now when we travel from one body to another, we just do a trade-in, we trade in one set of senses for another set of senses, one set of sense objects for another set of sense objects, but we're still within the realm of Pradhan, or within the realm of material nature, Prakriti for that matter, with the active material nature. But when the devotee merges everything back, it means I'm done. I'm done with the sense objects. I'm done with the senses. I'm done with the mind. I'm done with all the affairs of material nature. You can take it all back. Like these in New York, they have these bicycles now that you can rent. They branded with Citibank, and you put in I guess you swipe your credit card, and then you drive off with your bike, and you leave it somewhere at another station, whatever's closest to where you're going. So you just borrowed it, and when you don't need it anymore, you give it back. So that's what the yogi does. He says, I'm done. And you can take your bike back. You can take back the senses, you can take back the mind, you can take back the sense objects. I don't need them anymore. I'm done with this. I tried to become happy by exploiting the sense objects, using my senses, and it was a grand failure. It just made me more unhappy. It gave me so much trouble, and it was stupid. So you can take it back. And what was the cause of all this? The cause of all this was false ego. I'm thinking I'm this body, or I'm thinking that I'm a product of matter, that I belong to matter somehow. So you can take the false ego back too, by which I was thinking that I'm something that I'm not. You can take that back also. So it's like closing an account. We have credit cards, and we shift our credit card debt from one credit card to another card, and we move it around, and we try to get a better rate, or we try to string along our payments or whatever it is. So we, from what I'm told, we move from card to card. But if you say, listen, I'm done with this. I'm not going to pay 29% interest on things anymore. This whole credit card thing is just strangling me. I'm closing all my credit card accounts. Done. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. You say, okay, I'm paying off everything, and I'm not going to charge anything anymore. Finished. So then you're done. You don't get any statements anymore. You don't get any minimum payments anymore. Notices that you have to make a minimum payment. No more interest, no more charges. It's over. Your relationship with American Express or whoever it was is now done. So it doesn't mean that you've closed everyone's account. There may be so many others who are still going on paying 27% interest or whatever it is, and charging away and building up a debt and creating happiness for themselves at an enormous cost. They're going on doing it. But you've said, I've had enough of this. So this is the yogi's position. He doesn't have the power to just merge the totality of anything into the totality of anything, but he merges his portion. My senses merged back. My false ego merged back. Everything merged back. And then he's liberated. He's emancipated from all of these connections, from all of these entanglements, from all of this influence of material nature. He's freed not only from the gross body, but from the subtle body. So he's almost eligible to attain the spiritual world. But Prabhupada is going to speak to this point of what pure consciousness is, because according to what he conceives to be according to what one perceives to be pure consciousness, one's destination will be different. Is that okay? All right. So I hope it's less confusing and not more. Good. So now Prabhupada is explaining that real purification of mind and real pure consciousness is Vasudeva Sattva, which means Krishna consciousness. There's goodness and then there's pure goodness. And pure goodness is beyond material goodness. It's the stage of being convinced that one is the eternal servant of Krishna, that his life is meant for the loving service of Krishna and not for any other purpose. This is pure consciousness. That's distinct from the conception of the Mayavadi, the impersonalist, who thinks that merging into the Supreme is pure consciousness. Such a yogi attains the Brahmajyoti, and at the risk of falling down also, or with the certitude, with the certainty of falling down sooner or later. But this is the position of the pure devotee, that he leaves everything behind for the transcendental loving service of personality of Godhead. Then Prabhupada explains that this description that we've been hearing is the yogic way to do it. The devoted yogi, or the yogic devotee, would undergo this mystic system, this system of, we heard earlier, raising the life air through the various chakras and then leaving through the Brahmarandra in the skull. So that's a very demanding system. But previously people could do it. 5,000 years ago, the yoga process mentioned herein was a common affair for everyone. People were trained at the ashram of the spiritual master, brahmacharis, and so they could do these things. But in the present age, anyone who thinks that they're going to follow this process is not going to get very far. If you want to lose weight, feel fit and look good, that's different. But to achieve liberation from material existence by this Ashtanga yoga will not be possible in the present age. In the present age, Sri Chaitanya made it easier for the prospective devotee in the following specific manner. Ultimately, there's no difference in the result. So, first point Prabhupada makes, one must understand the prime importance of Bhakti Yoga. This is what Lord Chaitanya is teaching. The living entities are going through various terms of engagement in material existence, And one who secures some resources in bhakti yoga can understand the importance of service to the Lord through the causeless mercy of the Lord, as well as that of the spiritual master. Brahmanda Bhumite, what is that? Munshakon, what is that? Bhagavan Kon Bhagavan Jeev. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Tata Bij. So by good fortune, Bhagavan, fortunate living being, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, achieves, as Prabhupada says, some resources in Bhakti Yoga, the seed of devotional service. A sincere soul is helped by the Lord through meeting a bona fide spiritual master, the Lord's representative, and by his instructions gets that seed. So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that one sow the seed in the heart and nurture it by the water of hearing and chanting, the holy name, fame, and so on of the Lord. The simple process of offenselessly chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord will gradually promote one soon, very soon, to the stage of emancipation. So you don't have to go through all that yogic stuff. Then Prabhupada explains 3 stages in chanting: the offensive chanting, the reflective stage, namabhas. Abhasha means a reflection. So the reflective stage, I've reflected on what that means. Does it mean that the devotee is reflective, as in thoughtful? Or more likely, even though I like that explanation, more likely it's a reflection of pure chanting. It's not quite pure chanting. As Prabhupada explains, the way the first rays of the sun, the sunrise, even before you actually see the sun, the dawn heralds the sun's arrival by reflected light. So that's the second stage, the reflective stage. And even in that stage, you get liberation. Even even the second stage, beyond offensive chanting, but not yet in pure chanting, that gives liberation. And in pure chanting, offenseless chanting, one attains love of God and enters into the kingdom of God, although physically he may apparently be within the material world. All right, there's a question. Vijay Krishna asks why the Brahmajyoti is not a permanent situation. Prabhupada explains that further down in the purport, I believe, or maybe it's elsewhere, but many places Prabhupada explains it. It's because it's not our natural slot. It's not our natural condition. Like being in the hospital, you go to the hospital with some disease, whatever it may be, bronchitis or pneumonia or kidney problem or this or that, and you get cured of the disease, but you don't yet leave the hospital. You're still lying in the bed. You're still not really back to normal. So that's not permanent. You can't just stay in recuperation forever. Well, I'm free from the disease, but I'm not going back to work. No, you either you get back to your normal activities, or you'll relapse back into disease again. You can't be in eternal recuperation, because that's not healthy life. Healthy life doesn't mean eternal recuperation. It means you go back to your healthy activities. So the living entity, his eternal activities are in relation to the personality of Godhead. Now he has diseased activities here in the material world. So just getting free from those is not enough. He can't just hang out. He has to, by nature, he's active. So if he's not materially active, he has to be spiritually active. Or if he's not spiritually active, he'll descend to material activity again. Prabhupada gives the example of these space probes that they send out there into space. If it may escape the Earth's gravitational field, it attains escape velocity and breaks free from the force of Earth's gravitation. But floating in space is not a permanent situation. It's liable to be attracted then, again, either to the gravity of some other planet or to the gravitational field of Earth, as we see with escape probes, space probes. They go out there, but then after some time, down they fall into the ocean. So that's the position of the impersonalist. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna? Okay. Now, this is a very interesting purport, actually. There's a lot packed in here about devotional service in Prabhupada's purport. When we speak of hearing and chanting, it means not only should one chant and hear the holy name of the Lord, but also hear and read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. So it's interesting. This Shravana Kirtan doesn't just mean Hare Krishna, but it means hearing Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavad Gita in the association of devotees. That's also part of hearing and chanting. The primary practice of Bhakti Yoga will cause the seed already sowed in the heart to sprout. And by a regular watering process, as mentioned above, the Bhakti Yoga creeper will begin to grow. Creepers, not a term I heard actually here in America till I heard Prabhupada used it. It's what we'd call a vine, really, wouldn't we, in America? So a vine is a creeper. So by systematic nurturing, it grows, it penetrates the coverings of the universe, it reaches the effulgent sky, the Brahmajyoti, it keeps going, it reaches the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha planets, and the topmost is Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, where the creeper takes repose at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. And there, the hearing and reading, the watering process and chanting of the holy name in the pure devotional stage fructifies. And bears fruit, and the fruits in the form of love of God, the devotee tastes, even though he's still here in the material world. Now he's piercing through all of these things. Prabhupada indicates this doesn't mean that he's left his body. Even while he's here in the material world by pure chanting, he's piercing through all of these coverings. So even in this body, by hearing and chanting and relishing and constantly being engaged, he's reaching the lotus feet of Krishna. But the working devotee must always be mindful so that the creeper so grown will not be cut off. So he should be mindful of the following considerations, basically warnings. 1, offense at the feet of a pure devotee may be likened to the mad elephant who devastates a very good garden if it enters. This is explained by Lord Chaitanya. You grow a garden very nicely, and you pull up the weeds, you water it, everything's fine, but a mad elephant tramples everything, and that's it. So offenses to a pure devotee are like the mad elephant. One must be very careful to guard against such offenses, just as one protects a creeper by all around fencing. It so happens that by the watering process, some weeds also grow. And unless they're uprooted, the nurturing of the creeper of Bhakti Yoga may be hampered. The weeds are material enjoyment, merging into the absolute without separate individuality, and many other desires in dharma, artha, kama, moksha, religion, economic development, sense enjoyment, and emancipation. And many other weeds like disobedience to the tenets of the revered scriptures, unnecessary engagements, just messing around, killing animals, hankering after material gain, prestige, adoration. If we don't take sufficient care, the watering may only help breed the weeds, stunting the healthy growth of the main creeper and resulting in no fructification of the ultimate requirement, love of Godhead. If we let the weeds grow, they may just choke the plant, and then you don't get anything despite all that trouble. The devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then will the healthy growth of the main creeper not be stunted. And by so doing, the devotee is able to relish the fruit of love of God and thus live practically with Lord Krishna, even in this life, and be able to see the Lord in every step. The highest perfection of life is to enjoy life constantly in the association of the Lord. And one who can relish this does not aspire after any temporary enjoyment of the material world via other media, other means. That's how Prabhupada ends this quite enlightening and informative purport. Any questions here? Any other questions or comments? Krishna, Krishna. Krishna is adored by everyone, says Vijay Krishna, and he's also famous. Being a part and parcel of Krishna, is there a problem if I have the desire for adoration and fame? Yes, there's a problem. Because if we have a desire for separate adoration and fame, then that means I want to be the center. I want to be the enjoyer. So that is a problem, yes. Just like the hand, if it wants to hold on to the food and not pass it on to the stomach, it's a problem hand. It does have a relationship with the food, but its position is not to be the enjoyer of the food. It's supposed to pass it on. So adoration and fame are okay, but we're not meant to be the enjoyer of the adoration and fame. We're meant to direct that adoration and fame to Krishna. Then you still have the desire that I would like, just like some, nadanam najanam, suppose you become a spiritual master, Vijay Krishna, and you get these nice devotees who just adore you. They think you're the greatest thing since dal, rice, and chapatis. Now, if you think, yes, I'm the greatest thing since dal rice and chapatis, you're going to have a problem. Especially when the female disciple comes and says, oh, Guru Maharaj, you're so adorable. I love you so much. I just want to give my life to you. You think, well, actually, that's understandable because I'm part and parcel of Krishna. So um, that makes me adorable, and it gives me a desire for adoration and love. So, and then we invent so many excuses like the Prakriti Sahajas for material enjoyment in the name of spiritual life. Therefore, the pure devotee, he accepts the adoration, the praises, the fame, all of that, but says that this is all for Krishna. It's not for me. It's not that I am deserving of adoration. I'm Krishna's representative, so I pass these things on. Prabhupada gave the example of the viceroy in India during the British Raj, who could accept all sorts of stuff. They would give who knows what, valuable presents, but he wouldn't hold on to them. He wouldn't stash them for his own enjoyment. They were for the crown. So he would pass those things on to the crown. And in that way, he was doing his duty as the viceroy, and he was perfectly situated, as far as viceroys can be perfectly situated. So the same way, the Krishna is the right person to receive fame and adoration and so on. And we're meant to serve Krishna. And the servant of Krishna will automatically receive fame, adoration, everything. But one shouldn't desire that. One shouldn't desire that. One should know that I'm meant to serve Krishna. Let Krishna be famous. Let Krishna be adored. Otherwise, if I'm desiring, even subtly, let me be famous as a great devotee of Krishna, even that is, again, self-centered. Let Krishna be famous, that's all. Madhavendra Puri, after being favored by Gopal, who stole some sweet rice for him, first thing he did was he quit the village. So because he knew that pretty soon everybody would hear, hey, Madhavendra Puri's gotten this wonderful blessing from Krishna. Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Puri. So before any of that could happen, he just slipped out of the village because he knew this is not good. This is not what we're looking for. We want Krishna to be famous. And when Krishna is glorified, when Krishna is adored, then we're happy. If we try to enjoy the adoration and fame for ourselves, we'll become entangled. We can't handle it. We can't handle it. We're tiny. When a tiny living entity tries to enjoy, he becomes stuck. So we should be happy with our real position to serve Krishna's enjoyment. Venkatesh says, how to free oneself and others if there's a tendency to offend others in both. So that devotional creeper can grow healthily. How to keep oneself from offending others and how to help others keep from offenses. Well, let's start with ourselves. How to avoid offending others. By appreciation of others is the best way. What do they say? The best defense is a good offense, but turn that around. The best defense against offense is appreciation, especially of devotees, to appreciate the good qualities of devotees. If we're always appreciating the good qualities of devotees, then we won't become preoccupied with the supposed faults that we find in the devotees. Just like the moon, if you're looking up at the moon and appreciating the beauty of the moon, the effulgence of the moon, the coolness of the moon, the moon's relationship with Krishna, whose face is compared to the moon. If you're absorbed in seeing all these wonderful things about the moon, then naturally you're not going to be thinking, spots. The damn moon has spots on it. Why is everyone talking about the moon? Look at those spots. If you're busy appreciating the moon, you won't be thinking like that. But a dull person who doesn't know how to appreciate will only see the spots. So we should appreciate devotees. Damodar Vilas says, I have a question regarding an incident when Lord Krishna kills Shishupal. The soul merges into Krishna. Is Shishupal getting merged? He appears to be getting merged. For those who want to merge, we're getting the assurance that liberation is easy, even for the demons killed by Krishna. What to speak of of the devotees. But as you'll recall, Shishupal was one of the two guards at the gates of Vaikuntha, Joy and Vijay. So he resumes, even though he temporarily appears to merge, he resumes his personal identity as a Vaikuntha doorkeeper. There's two things actually that this merging achieves. The one is that it shows Krishna is so merciful that he gives liberation even to the demons he kills. So why should I go anywhere else but to Krishna? And to the devotee, it shows that liberation, that's what the demons get. The demons killed by Krishna get liberation. So why should I care about liberation? Even the demon, even the demons Krishna kills can get that. So why should I waste my time seeking liberation? That's even available to them. Let me go for love for Krishna. That's the real thing. Prema Pumarta Mahan. And Panchatattva Prabhu says that if we appreciate the moon, even the spots will seem beautiful. Okay. Any other comments or questions here? Mm-hmm. In this verse, we've completed basically the yoga system. We began earlier with the description of the universal form. Now we've discussed the yoga system, and we'll continue from here. And the focus, as always, is pure devotional service. And I don't have to take up the remaining 6 minutes. It's not that I'm not getting paid by the minute here anyway. Is Vasudev Sattva, Madhupati asks, the same as Siddha Sattva? It's not Siddha Sattva, Shuddha Sattva. I guess that's a typo. Yes, Vasudev Sattva is Shuddha Sattva. In Bhagavatam, 4th canto, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabdita. it's explicitly said in Bhagavatam that Shuddha Sattva is also called Vasudev. So Vasudev Sattva or Vishuddha Sattva are identical. Anything else? Okay. If there's nothing else, I will hand it back to Mr. Gopal, who can tell us about coming attractions. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam Yad Iyate Tatra Puman Apabrata Sattve Tasmin Bhagavan Bhagavan Vasudeva Yad Hokshajo Me Manasa Vidhiyate. Yes, in that Vasudev Sattva or Vishuddha Sattva, one realizes Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. I'm always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. At Hokshaja, the infallible personality of Godhead who's beyond the range of the mind and senses. Adha Akshaja, Bhagavan Vasudeva, Apaprata, without any covering. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, and thank you, dear devotees, for kindly participating so actively and engaging and going deeper and deeper into this material. Hold on. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you have a question? Yes, go ahead, Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Maharaj?
Yes, I can hear you.
Maharaj, this is a very quick question related to the very last part of the verse you just presented to us. The highest perfection of life is to enjoy life constantly in the association of the Lord. And one who can relish this does not aspire after any temporary enjoyment of the material world via other media. My question is, Maharaj, any temporary enjoyment, when the devotee is executing devotional service while in the material world, how does it happen for him that his engagements are no more temporary?
His enjoyment is serving Krishna, just like devotees. I love distributing books. I love kirtan. I love hearing classes. I love reading Bhagavatam. I love cleaning the temple or worshiping the deity or cooking. I just love being engaged in any service to Krishna. So this is enjoyment. You know, like the materialists, you give them a free weekend, they want to go to a hotel somewhere and swim in the pool and drink and drink and you know, whatever, the gamble, all of that. That's their enjoyment. Or go to the beach and play and, you know, whatever. But a devotee, you give them a couple of days. Wow, you know, they'll use it for devotional service because they love it. They love it. This is their enjoyment, service to Krishna. So that makes them liberated souls even in this material world. They don't love getting, you know, pursuing some satisfaction of their senses or the satisfaction of the temporary mind. They love serving.
And Maharaj, this love is related to the eternal identity of the spiritual soul?
Yeah, that's what the That's pure consciousness.
Yes, yes, yes. That is real enjoyment, no?
Yeah,
That's the only enjoyment available. Yes.
that's it.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful answers. Hare Krishna. My
Thank you
obeisances.
for your wonderful question, Hare Krishna. And it was
Hare
short as
Krishna.
promised.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So, as always, I'll just make a quick announcements for upcoming events. So, as you know, on Thursday evenings, we have the Vanaprastha Adventure. For those of you who are new, Maharaj has been giving this Vanaprastha Adventure topic class, lecture series for a couple of months now. It's a different Zoom link than this one. It's on Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that link can be found on Maharaj's website along with the wonderful other articles and information. And feel free to make a contribution if you like. It's very easy to do on Maharaj's website. If you want to make a personal contribution to Maharaj, it's just a quick link over there. So the links for the Zoom classes, etc., are under Maharaj's travel and online schedule in About. And of course, our ISKCON project is doing really well. We had some more activity on site today, and they've gotten rid of most of the extra dirt. And every day, some progress is being made. So a lot of exciting things there. Upcoming speakers. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, please join us for second canto Srimad Bhagavatam by Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj. Thursday evening, which is tomorrow at 8 p.m., we have Canto Prabhu. Canto Prabhu is a very famous speaker. He's also a spiritual master, and he's a great preacher living in Florida. So he's going to be presenting a poetic rendition of the Sudama pastime. So please be sure to join us tomorrow evening. And then on Saturday morning, this is Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, please join us for a special presentation on meditations and poetry by His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj. So that's Saturday at 11 a.m. And then Sunday evening at 8 p.m. is Gaur Kumar Prabhu. Gaur Kumar Prabhu, a very wonderful speaker, and he'll be speaking on the topic of how Arjuna succeeded in winning. Was it through his bow or was it through knowledge? So some intriguing topics coming up. And of course, next week there'll be more speakers. So we have programs pretty much every day, on most days except for Saturday. So please do join us, and please spread the word. There is no cost to join, and we have lots and lots of empty spots that you can join on Zoom, and unlimited connections on YouTube Live. So thank you all very much. And if you'd like to say Haribol, please let us say Haribol all together instead of like individually, because it's just so much cooler to say it all together, and it's also quicker. So I'm just going to share. Right? So 1, 2, 3. Haribol!
Haribol, Maharaj, wonderful question.
Maharaj, you are
Haribol.
wonderful. The best teacher, the best teacher. You are the best teacher. No one like you.
Prabhupada ki jai. So
Very best
Maharaj
teacher.
ki jai.
So sweet, so sweet.